All right, I know it's Saturday and I don't usually make a YouTube video on Saturday, but I've got something I want to chat about, so I'm not answering anybody's questions today. And Stinky, by the way, Stinky got out of the house last night. It was pretty traumatic for me to realise that Stinky was no longer in the house, because he's an indoor cat, he doesn't go outside. Well, he's been outside once before and he was terrified and ran back in. And we let the dogs out and it's all dark. And then about 20 minutes later, I called Stinky and realised that he wasn't in the house. And so then we're out there with torches looking for him. And we don't live like out in the wilderness, but we live on a farm. And so there's coyotes and there's raccoons and there's all these things that would eat a cat. And then he comes running to us, covered in mud and wet. And he was really scared. But anyway, so he's safe. But I'm not making a YouTube video about Stinky, although I probably could do. I could probably make a whole YouTube channel about Stinky because he's so damn cute. What I wanted to chat about was, this is definitely not a, oh, you should feel bad about yourself situation. It's just a have awareness about this thing situation, because I know I certainly didn't have very much awareness about this thing when I was sick myself. And this thing that I'm talking about is the impact, the effect that our illness, our having anorexia, has on our loved ones. And so when I was sick, of course I knew that my parents and people that loved me weren't happy with the way that I was. I knew that. They told me that. That wasn't a thing, but it was more in my head, it was more they're attacking me, you know, this is tension between us. They're trying to make me do something I don't want to do. My head certainly didn't translate it to these people really love me and are worried about me. So it meant that whenever somebody told me to eat more or commented that I was exercising too much, I would usually get pretty aggressive about it, tell them not to tell me what to do and that it's fine and all of those things. And in those moments, what I would be thinking about was my own discomfort, I guess, my own anger at them for trying to tell me what to do. I would be thinking about my emotions, certainly. I know that I wouldn't be thinking about them. I wouldn't be thinking about their emotion. I wouldn't be thinking about what my actions were doing to them. And it's a strange thing, because now fully recovered, even if I think back to how must that have been for my mother to watch me go out running every day, to tell me every day not to go, and be so very worried about me, and how hurtful it must have been for her to beg me not to go running and for me to still go, when, you know, in her mind, she's just asking me out of love, please do this thing for me, please don't go running today. And I'd still go, despite the fact I could see that it was distressing her. Do you see what I mean? That would be really hurtful. I think that if I asked somebody, please don't do this thing, just today, just don't do this thing because I love you and it's upsetting me that you're doing this thing, it would be really hurtful for me if they went on and then did that thing, especially if in my mind it was something that was so simple for them not to do. Now, of course, not going running was not simple for me not to do at all. Then it just felt like that was as if she was saying to me, don't breathe today. It felt like such a threat to me. But I never, in those moments, was able to consider her, really. It was all about, my head was all about me. And the reason I bring this up is because I had a chat with a lady yesterday, and her partner has an eating disorder. And her partner has the compulsive exercise bit, like I did. And so she, she was just a mess, really. And really struggling mentally her own self, because of just that situation, her partner going out running and her begging her not to go, and she still went anyway. And it's difficult to explain to somebody in that situation, it's not about you. It's not that they're trying to hurt you. It's not that they don't love you. It's the illness. It's that they don't feel that they cannot go running. And even though I've been there and I've been that person, it's still hard to sort of justify and explain. And really, it does kind of come down to that person's choosing to go running over anything else. That's fucking hard, isn't it? If you're in love with somebody, that's hard to deal with. So this was brought up from a conversation yesterday with this lady, but it's a conversation I have a lot with people who have partners who are in recovery or not. And it's often the running thing that really upsets people, but of course purging, that's another one, and any restriction, of course, and just begging somebody just eat a bit more, just do it for me, and then them not doing it. And I know that for a person with an eating disorder, that's not just as simple as often I'm just going to eat more. That's not how it feels anyway, although it is actually that simple. But I don't know how partners do it, is what I guess I'm saying. I don't know that I could have done that. I don't know that I could do that now. If my husband was, if he did something every day, and that thing was something that really upset me, really, really hurt me, because I was worried about him, I don't know how I would cope if I asked him one day, begged him, please don't do this thing, and he still went and did it anyway. I don't think I'd be okay with that. I don't think I'd stick around. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, for all people who are partners of a person with an eating disorder that has stuck around, thank you. Look after yourself, look after your own mental state, and maybe try and put yourself first a little bit too. And for those of us or people that are in recovery from an eating disorder or have an eating disorder, just think about it. I guess just think about it. I never had anybody tell me just think about it. So that's what I'm saying, just think about it. Now, I do actually have some ideas as to why our brains do this shit. And I think that if you look at it from an evolutionary point of view, migration theory point of view, your brain thinks that resources are scarce because you're in energy deficit, you haven't been eating enough food, whatever reason, you are acting as if resources are scarce when you restrict. So your brain thinks that resources are scarce. And I think that when our brains think that resources are scarce, they do this strange thing which starts to just build up a little bit of a bubble around ourselves and put other people at arm's length and make us a little bit more selfish than we actually naturally are, and make us not consider other people's emotions quite as much as we naturally would. And I think that our brains do this because if you think about it from a survival point of view, your brain thinks resources are scarce. There may become a point where you are in competition for resources with your friends and family. And so to me, this also explains why I just couldn't connect with people as well socially when my eating disorder was active. I always felt like there was a glass wall up between me and everybody else. And that glass wall certainly came down with recovery, and it was never there before I had an eating disorder. And I think that when our brains think the resources are scarce, they do many strange and desperate things. And I think one of those is just the sort of, friends and family may become competition for resources. So you can't have the same kind of emotional connection to them. And that's difficult to deal with when you don't understand that it's there. Because I certainly didn't understand that it was there when I had an eating disorder. I think that your brain sort of protects you. It's part of that anosognosia thing. And then, of course, when I recovered and that started to go away, then I went through this real grief period. All of the people, when I look back on the years that I'd had an eating disorder, all of the people I'd hurt by having an eating disorder, it really all hit me then. And it didn't hit me when I was sick. So I don't know what the message is. Just think about it, I think. Just think about how your eating disorder and how your actions affect other people. And like I said, I don't want this to be some sanctimonious bullshit because, did I hurt a lot of people when I was sick? Yeah, I certainly did. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't be like me.